Welcome to Voice of Araha. Today we're at Wellington Access Radio 106.1 FM, and we'll be your host today. My name is Rem, and this is Athi. Athi, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, thank you, Rem. I'm very excited to be talked to by Jude and see all the knowledge that he has to give to us.
Yes. So here's our special guest today, Jude. Jude is a community leader, passionate about environmental issues as well as like our community in general as well. And we're so lucky to have you here at the studio. Would you like to just introduce yourself?
Yep. Kia ora koto. My name is Jude Opira Bidong is my father's name. Originally from Uganda, and I've been in New Zealand for a while now. I don't know, years. I came here when I was already ready to get into the university, but ever since I've built my relationship with the community, managed to get involved in different activities, participate in different civic events. And more so display my potential, especially in the climate change area, in the community development and building capabilities, and in many other areas that I've built my capabilities where I feel like, yes, I need to participate, I need to, put my my potentials there for the community to benefit. So, yeah, and thank you so much for inviting me today. And lovely here to be here. And thanks, listeners, for always keeping tuned to the Access Radio.
Definitely, yeah. So Jude, could you tell us about, we know you're a very busy man, involved in many aspects in different communities. Could you tell us a bit about some of the communities you're a part of and how they are significant to you?
Oh yeah, as I said before, I came from Uganda. That's my country of origin, and by ethnicity in Africa, I'm a Luo. So the Luo community are a group of ethnic group in Africa that resides in the area, mostly in the areas of East Africa. So you'll find them in Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, Congo, South Sudan, Ethiopia, those East African countries. And of course, some of us even pride that, we ruled United States. That's, Obama. Obama's father is a Luo. Whatever the Luos of Kenya speak, I understand. And the ones in Uganda, when we speak, the Kenyans, the Luo of Kenya or Congo or where, understand. We've got a shared culture, shared language, but the only difference is the dialect. And that's what makes us unique. We've got, so that's one of the communities that I actively participate in. The second one is the Ugandan community in New Zealand. I'm the coordinator for both communities. So I do a lot of community coordination and relationship buildings and, all other organizing events and all other things that are required. And the other part is also I am part of the climate change lead group in Lower Hutt. And that's also another area of my, let me say, my passion, let me put it that way for lack of better language. I'll say that's my area of interest. So climate change, I've been there since end of 2019, so I've been part of contributing to the Hutt City climate change and also other areas. And thanks to Voice of Araha for also inviting me a couple of weeks or months ago to facilitate a workshop on climate change. So those are the areas that I pretty much love putting my life to. Building relationships is my strong. I think if I would say that would be my superpower. And I love being out there with the community and celebrating. Yeah.
You know, I had a question for you. Sorry, Ram. What are some key, I guess, tips you have to building resilient communities?
Well, that's a good question. I wouldn't say that I'm a specialist in that, but what I can pretty much say is that, being resilient, I would say on my side, that it's dependent on one.
Yeah.
We can try our best to put all our potentials in the community, but it's up to the community to either accept it or not.
Yeah.
And that would also amount to something else, that maybe if the community accepts what you're presenting to them, then of course they will follow what your ways and or what you're trying to give them, the information you're trying to give them. As for that, I would leave it to that. I wouldn't comment much on that because, I've got very little to mention about building resilience in the communities here. But
no, that was really good. Thank you for that.
Then, like, just following on from like what you have shared about the communities, what would you say some of like the biggest challenges that these communities are facing in New Zealand?
Well, as you know that I'm a migrant, I come from the migrant community. There's quite a lot of challenges that we face, and that also that interferes with our participation in the communities and in civic actions. And one is like if an event has been organized, for instance, for a climate change. One is, as an immigrant community, because you're offending for your family, for for your future, trying to establish a foundation for yourself here and for the generations to come. So you'll find like you would weigh in between, for instance, if the day, falls on a working day. You will either debate with yourself whether if I should go for that workshop or I should go to work. So those are the challenges that we face as a community. As a migrant community, there are quite a lot of other things that we face. The challenges out there in space. First of all, language barriers. That's a space where we're trying to. I'm actually trying to get our communities more out there because, like. Most of us, the migrant community, we came with our parents who are quite old, very hard for them to integrate into the community. By integration, I mean like, English is not our first language. So there are some who do not know English at all. And there are some who know, but, not that very well. And so being out in the community becomes a challenge for them. Or, trying to get involved in different aspects of life. It's upon now, we, the young ones, or the youth, or the young adults, to per se, that's where I belong, the young adults, and the youth, to create a space where they can come out and also participate in, being it an event like, for instance, the climate change that your team has been doing. So when they come out here, they get to involve meeting different people and, and doing other things. And then maybe displaying your own culture, celebrating you, because your culture is your roots. And so when you come out, create an event where you celebrate such things, that brings them together, makes them know that one is it will make them be very proud of you as a youth, that my son or daughter has not forgotten my culture, has not forgotten the roots. And two, it will be proud. They will be proud that they are displaying who we are to the entire New Zealand to know that we are there, we exist.
Yeah.
Those are some of the things that I think we can do as a community.
That's so,
Yeah.
that's
I
inspiring.
like talking too much, so I'll restrain from that. So, so those are some of the things that I would say that I would share with anyone, and of course I'm always grateful for whenever I send out an information out to our communities in New Zealand. They come in great to support us, and of course I know that Voice of Aroa is doing a lot as well, and I implore all those who can make it to the events, please do, because those are very educative events. They bring our communities together, and they are very educative in terms of how we live in this society.
Just building off what you said, coming from a migrant background and everything, do you think that these migrant communities are getting enough representation from aspects such as the media? Do you think they're properly being represented?
That's a good question. I would say it's 50-50. The first thing that I would say with the media is the narrative.
Yeah.
Because for someone who came to New Zealand as a refugee, from a refugee background, let me say, once you step in New Zealand soil, you're no longer a refugee. But you've got your background, And that's a story that you cannot write off easily because it's your life. It's written there. So the narrative there, I would say that it's the picture. It's up to the media to paint that picture rather than looking at someone as someone who is not or very productive to the society. Look at the positive. Look at it that way, in the positive way, that this is a new. This is someone who is going to bring new energy to New Zealand, and that would build the representation of our communities. And two, I think for the migrant communities to be more represented in the media, I would challenge the media to go out there and see the good things that the migrant communities are doing, especially in New Zealand. Because I know that there have been quite some. I mean, there are lots of migrants there. For instance, right now, New Zealand is grappling with shortages of nurses, doctors, name it, engineers even, I would say. And I know many of engineers, doctors, nurses out there, migrants, who have actually more than 20 years experience. But the thing is, the integration into New Zealand becomes a challenge. Those are things that I think they are, if media is not reporting its entirety. If they report, you'll find actually if there is a pathway for them to get into this. And maybe, there are other challenges, that I know that maybe the ministries would face in terms of checking backgrounds and all that to ensure that they've got the right qualifications. I know those are there are those challenges, but how about you test them and then you understand if they know or not what they're doing. So those are things that I think there are quite a lot in terms of the ethnic background that we have to look into. And I know there is a lot that the migrant communities and ethnic background can offer to New Zealand.
Definitely.
And of course, most of us call New Zealand our home now. Yes, it might not be our roots, but it's our home. So those are the things that I would say that
Thank you.
I would talk about media, but there's a lot to talk about media, but I'll stop it to that.
Thank you so much for sharing your community aspects out of what you do in the community. And now going to your other passion, which is for the environmental issue. So our first question is just, why is environmental issues significant to you?
Well, I'm a fan of nature. I love nature.
Yeah.
I love being in nature and just immersing myself in nature.
Yeah.
I grew up in a village called Nebi in Uganda, northern Uganda, and what gardening was the area that I've worked in. I grew up in, knowing that I after school I have to go and dig and get what to eat or something like that. And so I grew in love with nature.
Yeah.
And I knew the importance of nature, because if it's not green, I'm not a scientist, but
Yeah.
if the environment is not that green, there will be less vapor to go up and bring rain. That will cause that cycle. So, but I know that yes, environment. I mean, I started growing in love with nature since then, when I was young, and when I came to New Zealand, I still did my own gardening in my backyard.
Yes.
Yeah. So when I heard about climate change,
Yeah.
of course, I'm not also disclaimer. I'm not also a scientist in that area, but I quickly read and decided that why not let me first know what that means. And I can't say that I'm fully informed in terms of climate change, but I grew I grew in love with it because I know that the repercussion it makes. Of course, of recent we've seen the disasters that in New Zealand, like in Auckland, most people say that climate change is an hoax, but it's not. And the other thing that I know is that with climate change, what every little thing you do contributes.
Yeah.
And so it's always good to, try and do your bit. Even if there are some people who won't do it, but you try and do the little.
Yeah.
And that will make a difference. And so it's the same thing with our behaviors, our careers, and all those things. So anything that you do will contribute to something.
And that leads us perfectly on to our next question,
Yes.
which is, sometimes climate change can be made so big and overwhelming, and it often scares people away because how can I help if I have no idea how I can help? And so what are some ways that we can create change?
Well, that's a good one as well, what you've said. Climate change does not mean that you should now start immediately by saying, I'm not going to, I should go and just stop everyone from moving and doing what. No, it's not by force. I would say that even now, people out there who are advocating for climate change, don't scare people too much.
Yeah.
But just give them a little bit of information that they use that information and take action. Climate change, you can be a part of it, participate in it by just doing a little things. For instance, making sure that the waste products that you do, the wastes in the house is put in the right bin. That's a little thing that you can do. You don't need to be out there to do it for someone.
Yeah.
Two, you can take, a bus instead if you're driving yourself, or, just take a bus or carpool. Those little things contribute. As I said before, the little thing that you do contributes a lot to the climate change. So and planting even little veggies. As I said, I'm passionate about those things. Planting little veggies like your tomatoes, at the backyard or in your backyard. That's also something that contributes, because the tomatoes you're planting there is what you can eat, and that reduces even the waste of those who,
Yeah.
So, like in New Zealand, I think, for instance, in the Heart City, there are 3 main carbon emitters. That is transport, that is waste, and that is and energy.
Yeah.
So those are the three areas that that really emits carbon. So we need to look into those areas and then see how we can.
Totally, yeah.
So if you've been taking like 30 minutes shower, try and reduce that.
Reduce it, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's great, because if we know that we're contributing to the problem, then we can be part of the solution. And I also love the point you made about having a garden, because it's like planting a tree. If I plant a tree today, I might not be able to enjoy the shade when I sit under it, but the next generation will. And it's about leaving that legacy and actually enabling that change. And I really, really thank you for coming in today to talk to us. We were so inspired, and we had a really good kōrero with you today. So thank you so much for taking the time. Thank you, listeners.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thanks, listeners. Thank you for inviting me today. It has been lovely.
Thank you.
And I hope to see you guys again soon and talk
Definitely.
more. Next time, maybe more about climate change.
Went off on a bit of a tangent.
Less about
Definitely.
me, more about climate change and other community events.
Totally.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah.